Stevie Goodwin played linebacker for Notre Dame.
Whores galore. Welcome to Hangman Radio, where we recreate the magic of radio noir, live from the shores of Lake Michigan at the historic Shaker Cigar Bar in downtown Milwaukee, a mere 90 miles from Chicago, and light years from mediocrity, comes this most recent iteration from Hangman Radio. Oh, Miss Kitty, a story of the most revered madam in America, Kitty Williams. Tonight's original production is based upon actual people and events in Milwaukee's past, once the most prominent brothel and convention city in the entire country, until the politicians destroyed everything. Oh, Miss Kitty is part of the forthcoming novel, The Brothel Diaries, by Amanda Morden. Imagine, if you will, a spiritual awakening as old as time itself. The loneliness and isolation of man's soul. Man meets woman. Woman invites man to come up and see her sometime. Woman beds man. Woman helps man to realign his soul and purge his demons via the oldest transaction in history. However, at a price. It's always at a price. Hangman Radio now presents the 1894 Players Ensemble, Oh, Miss Kitty.
Give me a beer.
Listen, buddy, you can get a beer anywhere. That's not why you come here.
Oh, no? I come here to get my whistle wet, old lady. You tell me a bar in this town is too fancy to serve beer.
Well, when you put it that way, yes. But I might just have something back here to suit your taste. That's always been my speciality.
Wait a minute. The hell is that? It's Teeny.
Oh, don't look so shocked, honey. I'm sure you've heard that before. It's a nip. You're obviously a hard-working man, and it's 1935. These are hard times. I don't want to break your budget.
Just who the hell you think you are?
Sit down, mister. I run this joint. Now you're going to drink your little nip and listen real good. My story's awful long and you're awful thirsty, and neither of us has anywhere else to be. Right?
Nah.
That's what I thought. So when you finish that sip of beer, you're going to buy me another one, and by the time you walk out of here, we're going to be real good friends. Got it?
Yes, ma'am.
It's Kitty. And just who in the hell do you think you are?
John.
Pleased to meet you, John. Funny, I've known quite a lot of Johns in my day.
Oh, you don't mean that you...
You better believe I mean that. When I came to Milwaukee, before you were even born, this was the place to be. I came all the way from California. I was a virtuous young girl, mind you, but learned real quick that virtues are not nearly as valuable as silver. Real money spends real good, and the miners out there had plenty of it. Men are simple creatures. You understand what I mean, John?
Huh?
That's what I thought. If the right woman pushes the right buttons, well, a man will offer up his life on a platter. I just wanted to make everyone happy. And I did, John. I was good. Even with a reputation as damaged goods, I had no shortage of marriage proposals. But the thought of marriage bored me, John. I wanted to take what I knew and make a business out of the game.
So how'd you end up in Milwaukee?
Well, aren't you eager all of a sudden, John? I bided my time for a few months, taking coin off my usual suspects, until I could figure out where my services were truly needed. Those mining towns always had new prospectors coming in from everywhere else. And I remember sitting in a saloon, much less classy than this one, when some fella starts yapping at the top of his lungs.
Sure, there's plenty of girls out in California, but they ain't nothing but a covey of dolly mops. Back home in Milwaukee, now that's some fine tale if I ever had me some.
I'll say. Plenty of shakers around here leaves you with nothing but a lick and a promise. Where the Sam hell's Milwaukee, though?
Clear across the country, my friend. Seems like half a world away now. It's just north of Chicago.
You must be shot in the neck. It's awful cold up there in Chicago. You'd have to be clear off your nut to go further north.
Cold men need warm women. Why don't you tell me about Milwaukee, stranger?
Well, look at this little thing with the sweet kettle drums. I bet you make a real nice pillow.
You can't afford a pillow this nice, stranger.
Why don't you come a little closer, you little tart, and I'll tell you all about my hometown. Or are you too full of piss and vinegar to sit on my lap, and like a good little girl and listen to my story? Now.
Looks like the girl don't want to hear your story, mister.
Not by a jugful.
Good night, then, gentlemen. Maybe I'll see you at the train station, stranger. By the looks of you, you'll be heading back to Milwaukee sooner rather than later. And I have half a mind to head out that way myself.
Turns out I was right. A few weeks later, the stranger brought a one-way ticket to Chicago with his last remaining pittance and left with his tail between his legs. I packed up my clothes, my ample savings, and considerable life skills and caught the train to Chicago myself the next day. I figured I'd inquire when I got there how far I was from Milwaukee. Hang on. It looks like I have another customer to take care of. What can I get you, sweetheart?
I'll take a daiquiri. I understand they're all the rage these days, and yours is the only place in town that has the fresh juices, I hear.
Well, you have impeccable taste, I see. You know how to dress like a gentleman and drink like one, too. Looks as if the ravages of this depression haven't hurt you one bit. Coming right up.
You trying to insult me, old lady?
If I wanted to insult you, John, I wouldn't have to try. Now, don't you worry. I have another nip back here for you. And I hope your offer to buy me one is still on the table because I'm about ready for one, too.
It's everything I hoped it would be.
I aim to please.
I guess.
Where you from, darling?
Here. I'm from here, but I moved to New York for business. I'm back home visiting family. My father's health is failing, and, well, we'll see. I've been tending to him for days. It's my sister's turn for a while. God, I needed this drink.
You came to the right place.
Well, actually, that's true. I came here because, well, my old man was a big fan of yours.
Oh, well, most were.
Now, wait a minute. You mean to tell me that your old man...
Of course he means that, John. What's your father's name, sweetie?
Wilkinson.
Ah, Mr. Wilkinson. I was a big fan of his, too. That man ran his business almost as well as I did. I'm very sorry to hear that he's not well. Pleased to meet you, son of Wilkinson. I'm Miss Kitty. I'm about to tell the story about how I got to be the Miss Kitty. Stick around and have a listen, won't you?
It'd be my honor, Miss Kitty.
Oh, I almost forgot about your beer, John. Well, you didn't leave enough in there to save a flea if you were dying of thirst. Let me pour 2 into a glass for you and make you feel more like a man. I'll charge you for 1.
Thank you, Kitty.
Oh, and mine. I guess I'm getting my money out of you after all.
Oh, yeah. Chicago's a hellhole.
What? What does that have to do with anything?
Oh, she was just getting back to that part of the story where she took the train to Chicago. If you were as in love with her as you acted when you walked in here, you'd want to know that part, right?
Well, yes, so I would. Please, continue, Miss Kitty.
Chicago was busy in the 1880s, but it wasn't a hellhole yet, John. It also wasn't my final destination, but I soon found out how close it was to Milwaukee. When I finally got here, I took a job as a seamstress at a high-fashion clothier, so I could get a feel for anybody that was somebody around here. If you're important, you spend more money on your clothes, right, Wilkinson? After a short time, I had a small downtown apartment, and I began to hear things beyond the basic clothing store gossip.
Well, not everyone who has their initials monogrammed on their cup is worth what they're trying to look like, you know?
I know, but it doesn't hurt to make them think you're interested in their boring old stories. You might get a box of chocolates or a bottle of perfume out of it anyway.
Ha! Fine gentlemen are worse gossips than any woman I've ever known. I suppose their wives stopped listening to them ages ago.
I bet that's not all their wives stopped doing ages ago.
Oh, you're positively scandalous.
What about you, Kitty? All you ever do is sit and hum a pretty little song while these men give you an earful. Don't you ever get tired of it? Maybe you want a few shiny trinkets for your trouble?
I prefer to keep my head in my work.
Oh.
Kitty isn't as innocent as all that, girls. I've seen her pull her skirt up her leg while she works just to watch the old dog she's measuring turn into a hungry wolf. Especially that real estate developer, Mr. What is his name? The one who can't keep his eyes off her? Mr.
Henry, I wasn't expecting you so soon. Please, come right this way.
Thank you, Catherine. I trust you're quite finished with my trousers?
Yes, of course, Mr. Henry. Perhaps if you would just try them on for me, we can be assured that they are completely to your liking. For instance, I've placed something in the right front pocket that you might find interesting.
The right front pocket? There's a note in the pocket. But there's a note in this pocket.
Yes, I was hoping that you might read it later.
Well,
Much later.
Yes, but
In private.
Well, yes,
Not in the shop.
But what exactly is this about, Catherine?
Well, you don't expect me to... Do you want me to... I'll just read it to you then. Dear Mr. Henry, I'm here from California on business. I'm a miserable seamstress, and I expect a man of your status and superior wit suspects that I'm not what I appear. I've thrived in the field of gentleman's hospitality for the greater part of 4 years, and I believe my services are needed here. In short, I need a house downtown. I will employ no less than 15 quality boarders at any given time, groomed to perfection and aimed to please the upper class. I'm fully capable of self-funding, and my time is limited. I eagerly await your response. With all sincerity, Catherine Williams.
Thank you, Catherine. I think I'd better be going.
Mr. Henry, your trousers.
I went to work as if nothing had happened, sewed the straightest lines I could, and waited, all the while cursing under my breath at myself for not being as subtle as I knew I should have been. Weeks went by, and I was certain that I had ruined my only chance at success by offending the one person who controlled a good portion of the houses I was interested in buying, and likely my liaison to the men who would be interested in using that house.
It figures I would have to wait for you to close your head to serve me a drink. What are you jawing off to these poor fellas about?
Emily, by gosh, but you look well. Boys, this is my Emily. The closest thing I've ever had to a daughter. If I started having kids at 45.
My timey kitty. I want to feel like a woman of the world.
You got it, kid. Have some respect for a young girl and an old family friend, gentlemen. I see the way you're looking at her. That's the way they looked at her mother, Elizabeth, too. Everybody made off well in those exchanges, if you know what I mean. I'd almost excuse you, Wilkinson, as potential husband material if you didn't have a wife waiting back in New York.
I never mentioned a wife.
Didn't have to. I can smell married. Besides, I know you didn't mean anything beyond looking. Isn't she just gorgeous? And talented. She's quite the writer.
Yeah, I guess it's all right to knock out a romance novel once in a while, but I really want to work for a magazine. Ever since this depression, a woman won't even be considered for any interesting work. It's an abomination for a female to take a man's job in these hard times. They must provide for their families, don't you know? Gosh, I'm tired of selling scraps of paper for less than a cup of coffee. Maybe I should sell myself, huh, Kitty? I've got the goods.
You certainly do. But that business is trash now. Keep your virtues and marry a nice man. You're such a good girl.
Oh, Kitty. The advice is a little on the bitter side, but the Mai Tai is sweet and delicious as usual.
She aims to please.
Oh, I see. I must have walked in the middle of your story, didn't I? Come to think of it, I've never heard the whole thing. Mind if I listen to, Kitty?
Of course not, child. Better get you boys another drink, too. You look thirsty. I was just about ready to slink back to the train station myself, much like that prospector I'd met in California, when I received an unmarked envelope at the seamstress shop.
Catherine, I apologize that it has taken me so long to respond. First, I I wanted to look into future development of the city, which has some exciting prospects in the works that may aid your business proposition. Second, it was imperative that the house I had in mind would be available, and in a stroke of good fortune, it has recently been made so, quite affordably, I may add. The city is in dire need of the services you propose, and I look forward to working with you. As I myself have no first-hand knowledge of the skill set you possess, I'm taking an enormous risk in even responding to your inquiry. Meet me for dinner at the Lakewood restaurant tomorrow at 7. They specialize in chicken tartare and have a discreet clientele. We can discuss further at that time. Regards, H.
The next evening, I found the restaurant in a remote area of the city that was little more than swampland and vagrants. I wondered at first if I'd been led to the wrong destination on purpose, but there it was, Lakewood Restaurant, a swanky diamond in the rough. By the time I entered, Mr. Henry was already there and at a small table at the back.
Good evening, Mr. Henry.
Catherine, won't you sit down?
Yes, thank you.
I'm sure you're eager to get down to business, but first, why don't we have a drink? Waiter, bring us a bottle of your finest vodka.
Why, certainly, sir. How about a V vodka? A V vodka is imported from Israel and distilled with the 7 spiritual ingredients from the Holy Land and the waters of the Sea of Galilee. Ultra Smooth AV vodka has a subtle, sweet finish that will enhance your favorite cocktail and is delicious when enjoyed neat, up, or on the rocks. A V vodka for your body, mind, and spirit.
Yes, that sounds perfect, my good man. Bring us the Aviv vodka. After all, this is a celebration of sorts.
Well, here you are, sir. Aviv vodka. When you want to celebrate and make it a toast that really means something, be sure to do it with Aviv vodka for your body, mind, and spirit.
My, what an unusually thorough waiter.
Yes. I don't usually do this sort of thing, Kitty, but I would like to make a toast to us and things to come.
Well, yes, Mr. Henry. Things to come.
The house I have in mind for you is a small manse in the center of the city. It needs work, but I have men for that. You look very nice tonight. The dress is very demure.
Thank you, Mr. Henry. Well, I imagine it will take some time to get it into proper working condition.
Oh, no, I don't think it needs
The house, I mean.
Oh, the house, yes. I will hold you responsible for the cost of the repairs, as the cost of the building itself will offset any financial strife you incur through fixing it up, as it were. What fragrance are you wearing? It's quite intoxicating.
Soap, Mr. Henry. I like to keep everything quite clean. Very expensive soap.
Soap?
Do you have any particular interest in how things are arranged?
Arranged?
How it will look, on the inside.
I'm sure I wouldn't know the first thing about how...
Mr. Henry, the house.
Oh, yes, the house. You may have it built to your own specifications inside if you so desire. It's your money and I will not hinder you.
I like the sound of that. I do my best work unhindered.
Yes, well, I took the liberty of ordering some chicken tartare for the table. Here it is now. I hope you're pleased.
Oh, it looks divine. Please tell me, what are the exciting prospects that you spoke of in your letter?
Yes. Well, Mayor Walber will be facing a labor strike in the next 18 months or so. That will tie him up to the point where a brothel might go unnoticed until it is in full swing and attracting the city's finest. The timing could not be better.
Oh, Mr. Henry, there's nothing I find more attractive than a man with good timing.
There are also serious talks about construction of a full-fledged city hall. If the rumors are to be believed, it will be in the backyard of your new house.
Oh, my, this chicken, it's so slippery. Wouldn't that attract unwanted attention?
Well, you came to me asking for a place downtown, Catherine. Until now, any women that sell their wares are stuffed away in houses on the outskirts of town or in the streets. I agreed to meet with you because I admired your shrewd desire to be at the center of the city with a very necessary commodity. Did you honestly not think you would attract the attention of everyone in the city? Waiter, another Aviv vodka, please. Perhaps you're not the woman I thought you to be, Catherine.
Thank you. I'll take that.
What?
There. Now then, I only meant to inquire what supporting businesses would be neighbors of mine downtown. I intend to hold the entirety of the city's elected officials in my pocket. Everyone has a vice of some sort, Mr. Henry. The sooner we can find the proclivities of the Common Council, the sooner we can have aces in our sleeve ready to be played. Speaking of aces, enlighten me on the gambling community here.
No designated halls, if that's what you're asking.
And opiates?
Yes, but they're mostly doled out by the foreigners on Grand Avenue. The apothecaries haven't recognized them fully yet.
This all sounds entirely promising.
So it is. So it is.
Did you sleep with him?
Goodness, Emily. Of all the things you could have asked, and that's it? John, what are you doing at the door? Are you leaving?
Oh, just looking for the toilet.
All the way back and to the right. Will you be ready for another when you get back?
Oh, don't mind if I do.
Let me get another of those Mai Tais for you, Emily.
I want what he had. That looked good, too.
Actually, I wouldn't mind trying what the young lady was drinking either.
Okay, a Mai Tai for the gentleman and a daiquiri for the lady, then. Coming right up. So what?
Well, did you, did you sleep with him?
Of course I slept with him. Just not that night.
Oh.
So, she sleep with him?
No.
That's all right, broad. Wait until you see the house, if you know what I mean. Am I right? Am I right?
Not bad, John. You just might make a good businesswoman, too.
Funny.
The house in question was a complete heap, but I wanted it more than I had ever wanted a single thing in my 19 years on Earth. The bones of the structure were sound, but the outside looked like a nightmare. The inside was no picnic either. Tapestries on the walls looked like wilting autumn leaves, rotting to the floorboards below, and yet there was a presence that screamed beauty and prominence. She was breathtaking, and I was in love for the first time in my life.
Well, here she is.
Could this really even be considered a house, Mr. Henry?
I had disclosed the questionable state at first mention. Surely this cannot be a surprise to you. The price has already been adjusted as low as possible to offset the cost of repairs.
I see. Well, it's bigger than I had pictured. It will certainly accommodate all the boarders that I intend to hire and groom. This giant cave-like section, it would be perfect for a Roman-themed room with sunken floors and gilded walls and then men having grapes fed to them, you know, in the mythology books. And over here, I have an idea for a Louis XIV room with a throne. He was once the most powerful man in all of France. I mean, why wouldn't he get his own room? And of course, I'd need to hire a French girl to run this room for authenticity and tapestries.
Tapestries?
I'll take it. I'll have the money deposited in the central bank tomorrow. You can access it with this. So how soon can we get your men out here? I'd like to oversee construction immediately.
We may begin a week from today. It is a pleasure doing business with you, Catherine.
It will be, Mr. Henry.
Now, did you sleep with him?
Emily.
What?
Your mother was a proper lady, and I know she raised you better than to make those disgusting noises in public. You're a grown woman, for crying out loud.
Then don't serve drinks to me with straws. How about a straight rum in a sipping glass and one for this guy, too? His tiny little beer looks like it's gone dry.
Labor cap won't keep me past tomorrow if I'm late and hungover. I got a stomach for one more beer and then I gotta go home. Get yourself one of me, kitty.
I thank you, John, but I'm going to make the switch to pineapple juice. If I try to keep up with the rest of you kids, I'll be slurring the rest of my story.
Say, you never answered the question, Kitty. Did you sleep with Henry that night?
Patience, sweetie. I'll get to that part. In the meantime, I had bigger fish to fry. You see, I had made up my mind to get the construction underway despite my now very limited funds. I met with Mr. Henry and his contractors the following week and began to give them instructions on what rooms were what. What I was planning had never been done in this little city and likely not anywhere near it either.
Catherine, I've reviewed your plans for the house, and they are ambitious, to say the least. I'd like to work out a weekly schedule for the construction costs. Now, how will you be taking care of that?
Well, Mr. Henry, I find myself currently without any funds at hand, but well, I suppose, given the right circumstances, I could work it off.
Catherine, please. I am in real estate. All my money is tied up in property, not liquid. And even if it were, I could not rightly roll it into the development of a whorehouse. I don't care how enticing its madam is. This project must come to a halt.
All right, shut it down then. Let me be the sole owner of a deteriorating hunk of stones. I shall simply live out my days as a lowly seamstress, driving down your property values day by day with this ugly thing at the center of town.
Very well then. We shall use the cash you paid to fund the construction, and you will owe me.
Of that, I have no doubt, Mr. Henry.
So, then you slept with him?
No, my dear, I did not. I turned my attention to finding the well-bred ladies that I needed to maintain my livelihood. I decided to hold a grand cocktail and dinner affair for my prospective workers once the house was finished. Even if they were naive in the ways of lust, I could teach them their way around a man. Within the next several weeks, I was at every coffee clutch, sewing circle, and church picnic between here and Chicago, spitting out the same series of lines.
Wherever are you from, Miss Kitty?
Just moved to Milwaukee from Ohio.
You don't say. Do you have a place to stay here in Milwaukee?
I'm taking over my dear old grandmother's house.
How do you find Milwaukee compared to Ohio, Kitty?
Actually, I'm not totally comfortable with big city folks.
Milwaukee must seem so positively tiny compared to Chicago, Kitty.
Actually, I'm not totally comfortable with small town folks.
Welcome, Catherine. We are so pleased you could join the Racine Ladies Aid Society.
The daughters of the American Revolution.
The Sisters of St. Francis of Assisi.
Yes, the Ladies Curling Club of Madison certainly does seem like the ideal place to make some friends my own age.
Yeah, I am quite sure that the Plow and Lace Embroidery Club of Milwaukee would be happy to attend your cocktail party, Fraulein Kitty.
Why, yes, Kitty. Most of us here at the Young Widows Society of Kenosha County do find ourselves with quite a bland social calendar. How kind of you to think of us for your party.
And so on until I had 100 decent candidates gearing up to come to my soiree. I set a date a month beyond the house's projected completion, and by the time the final nail was pounded in place, I had about 50 girls who were gutsy or curious enough to come.
Oh, don't stop your story on my account.
Alma! Kitty, this is my friend Alma. I've wanted her to meet you for quite some time.
Well, aren't you a pretty young thing? But how did you know I was telling a story, dear?
Emily told me that's the reason folks come into your place, to hear your stories about the old days.
Well, that's why I'm here.
I just wanted a beer.
Oh, hush up, John. I'm just getting to the good part.
Oh, she's going to sleep with him!
I walked to the manse to meet Mr. Henry again for the first time in months. This was to be the big unveiling. Butterflies gnawed at my insides and my knees were numb. My entire future lay before me. I remember shivering then, and not just because it was cold.
Oh, hello, Catherine? Hello there.
Mr. Henry.
Catherine, I wouldn't normally do this, but would you be amenable to wearing this?
A handkerchief? What is this for? Should I put it in my hair?
No, over your eyes. I couldn't believe it when I approached the place earlier today, Catherine. This is not the house you bought. Oh, goodness, it isn't even near the house I bought. I want you to take it all in at once. A complete surprise. Will you?
By all means.
Here, let me just tie it around your eyes then. And, there. Now, come with me. Now, here we are. Now, what can you hear?
Nothing. No hammers, no saws, no construction. Oh, and a fountain.
Right. And what do you smell?
No more rotting wood. Freshly stained trim. Newly grouted marble. It smells like opportunity.
May I remove your blindfold?
Oh, please. Why, it's magnificent. Oh, Mr. Henry, who on earth is paying for this?
You are.
Well, surely this cost more than I gave you.
Well, yes. Your money was used to clear the debris and stain the wood, but I found some silent lenders to move the project forward. If your business model is equal to your vision here, you should have no trouble paying them back.
Oh, Mr. Henry.
Catherine, what are you doing with that handkerchief? Now stop that. I can't see.
Oh, Mr. Henry.
My jacket and my tie. Oh, be careful of those buttons, Catherine. It's a very expensive shirt.
Oh, Mr. Henry.
Well, I trust you find the details of the decor quite satisfactory. The bronze nymphs frolicking in the water, the fountain there. And the hand-carved railings and the grand staircase. And my shoes, they're taking those, and the tapestries, the mural tapestries designed to your specifications. It's just...
Every last inch of him belonged to me in that moment, and I whispered softly and lustfully in his ear that I was going to...
Why did you stop?
My apologies, dear. Perhaps the details are not entirely necessary for such an intimate audience. Where did you get that drink?
Oh, I'm sorry, Miss Kitty. I was so wrapped up in your story that I guess I must have gotten thirsty and taken a sip of this gentleman's Mai Tai. I hope you don't mind, mister.
No, not at all, my dear. Why don't you just keep it?
Daiquiris all around, then. Including you, John. You can't run away from here just yet, seeing as how I don't buy drinks for customers ever. I'm in business to make money, and I'm a very good businesswoman, right, John?
To that I will drink. I can't believe I'm saying this, but can we please get to the part about the cocktail party? If I'm going to sit through a glass full of fruit, I'd at least like to hear something about some imaginary women.
But they weren't imaginary.
They were very real.
Look, even if you are who you say you are, Kitty, these women are as old as you are now, so they might as well be imaginary for all the good they're going to do me.
Well, see how you like this little picture. I hired a quartet of Italian musicians to complement the decor and stocked the place with plenty of libations. The 43 girls in attendance had come from miles around, and I felt like a livestock trader as I watched them hobnob about. I began to take notice of their features, assessing them as saleable items. This one's ankles were too thick. This one's teeth were crooked. One perfectly gorgeous woman loosened up after a few glasses of wine and began to speak loudly and crassly. Only 21 remained after I had sent their unsatisfactory counterparts into the night with a dried floral bouquet and a handful of assorted teas as a parting gift.
I thank you all for attending this evening. I've met you all through various social gatherings, and I'd like to extend my gratitude to each and every one of you for making my transition to this city a warm and welcoming one. No, really, you are all beautiful women inside and out, and I sense a budding greatness in everyone in this room. We're all women here, so I feel I can speak openly about our circumstances as the fairer sex. See, I've been fortuitous enough to have found myself in this beautiful house with a unique set of skills. Skills that I would very much like to share with you. They will help you find confidence, independence, and keep you well paid for as long as you choose to use them.
I don't get what...
Now, beginning this week, I'm looking for ladies to work side by side with me. Now, I know some of you would prefer to live in hometowns and move in a more conventional direction with your lives, but I welcome any of you to stay on and experience our young womanhood to its fullest. To new friendships.
New friendships!
I will have to gather my things, but I could be back here within the week.
I wouldn't mind living here. What are the best restaurants in town?
What precisely does experiencing our womanhood pay?
Now there's a girl who understands what she's in for. I'll work with each one of you personally to ensure the quality of your training in the art of pleasure. And girls, you will command quite a high price. Of course, I'll subtract room and board and toiletries and so on, but you'll get paid more than sufficiently. Are you with me, ladies?
As promised, Mr. Henry immediately began sending clients. Within a year, I was almost out of debt. Of course, Mr. Henry and I continued our illicit affair in the most fun of ways, and we were both happy. Not all of my fortune was good, however. In the years that followed, my establishment encountered a fair amount of competition from a rival brothel run by Lizzie French on the Milwaukee River. She undercut my prices and gave away the goods to local politicals, including the mayor himself. My girls were artists, and I wouldn't dream of giving away their time. I made sure Mayor Wallaber received a small envelope with his cut every week. He never stopped in and didn't shut me down. It was a beautiful relationship.
Hello, Miss Kitty. May I have a beer?
No matter how hard I try to do something new, it's painfully obvious that this is a beer town. I'm too old to find it. Nip or nothing, this isn't a beer place.
Nip, then. Are you this pleasant to all your customers?
I don't know you, and you address me like you've known me forever. Who are you?
The name's Robert McGraw. Go by Bobby. And I have known you forever. I'm a city historian and journalist. I've been following the River Street District and the days of openness in this city since I started 20 years ago. You may be one of the most dynamic historical figures in this town, and I came for an interview.
Ain't you some kind of grade A bootlicker?
Historical figures are dead people who live on in statues and portraits. I am alive and well and a tax-paying citizen. How dare you treat me as if my time is over? I ought to throw you out.
Yeah, Miss Kitty is alive and well.
Now, listen, ma'am, ladies, I meant no disrespect. In fact, I have admired you since I was a college boy. I normally wouldn't barge in like this, but I just got word that you opened up this place, and I couldn't wait to meet you. I wrote an entire story on you, and now that you're back in the public eye, I felt it wouldn't be right to publish it without your input. How about it? You got time for an interview?
I am tending to customers, son. Besides, I don't want you asking me stupid questions. You're welcome to sit here as long as you buy drinks. I'm telling my story as I know it, and if you tell it any other way, Mr. Historian, I will kill you myself, and then you'll be a piece of history.
I think she's serious.
What's the River Street District, Kitty?
Just getting to that, kiddo. Sit down, son. In the fall of 1889, without any warning, a very loud construction crew moved into my backyard, and it was announced that City Hall was indeed becoming a reality. It would be a massive structure, and it took 5.5 long years to complete. But while the city was focused on this monumental edifice, opportunists and copycats followed my lead and began opening houses on the riverfront. More houses and more out-of-town visitors meant more customers, and soon I needed more girls. I had women from all walks of life showing up now that the town was rampant with prostitution, and I had to be selective on who I picked up as part-time help.
How are we supposed to sleep with all these rackets?
I hardly have the strength to pick up my head when the construction crews start banging away at 7 a.m.
Especially when we've been banging away all night.
All right. A little decorum, please, ladies. As sprawling as this house is, I guess we could use a little more room to stretch our wings. Rotating schedule is not working, so I made up my mind to buy the house next door. I have no doubt Mr. Henry can snap it up for a song with all this construction going on and then sell it back to me on the cheap.
By the time City Hall was complete, we had gone through 5 mayors, and Milwaukee acquired 8 more houses of prostitution on River Street. No more brothels dared to pop up once City Hall was done for fear of building without the cloak of destruction. However, all of that would change in 1898 when one of the best mayors I had ever seen was elected to office.
1898? That was Rose, right?
My story, Mr. Newspaper. If I say it was Mayor Henry VIII, then that's what you'll write.
Wasn't Henry VIII some guy from England?
Yes, Alma. Who was it, Kitty?
The man's name was David Rose.
So it was Rose. Wait a minute. What are you busting this guy's chops for, old lady?
Why not? You're getting jealous, John?
Say, I remember hearing about Rose. He was one of those guys you either loved or hated.
Rose was a strange man. He was from Milwaukee, and yet he talked with a cultivated southern accent to appear more gentlemanly. He wore a curved mustache, and he certainly knew how to laugh. Every mayor before him since Walbert became a loyal customer of mine, but Mayor Rose politely declined every invitation I sent. Then one day, completely out of the blue, he invited me to his office in City Hall.
Miss Kitty, won't you please sit down? The famous Miss Kitty. Let me look at you. You assuredly have made a reputation for this city. Tell me, if I may be so bold, how old are you?
25.
25? 25, I was still weaning myself from my man's teat, as it were. Oh, a very young woman, you. A very young and admirable woman. Thank you for honoring me and humoring an old soul. I had to see you for myself. I do declare that your beauty far exceeds the legend of it. Please, give me your hand to kiss.
Oh, my. thank you, Mayor.
Now, let me get to the point, Miss Kitty. I'm interested in enacting what some might call a wide-open policy here in Milwaukee.
A wide-open policy? Well, my girls and I have been personally enacting that one for years now.
Sorry, I don't follow.
Wide open? Because we, for money? But, never mind. What can I do for you, Mayor Rose?
I want Milwaukee to become one of the most celebrated convention cities in the country, Miss Kitty. That will require a certain acceptance of various forms of entertainment that some might find distasteful in this town. As the woman with the highest public profile in Milwaukee, I would like you to be a general consultant of sorts in this matter.
I'm happy to help in any way that I can, Mayor Rose.
You understand, Miss Kitty, that this will require us to meet on a somewhat regular basis to discuss my ideas.
Oh, yeah. I see. I knew this would come up sooner or later, and would you like to discuss one of your ideas right now, Mayor Rose?
Why, yes, in fact, I would, Miss Kitty.
Right here in your office, Mayor Rose. Well, you naughty boy.
First of all, I was thinking it might be best to contain all of the illegal operations to River Street here. Keep it from getting out of hand. Wouldn't you agree, Miss Kitty?
All right, so not here, then? You're aware that my house is not on River Street, Mayor Rose.
Oh, well, I think that a provision could be made for such an exclusive destination as your house, Miss Kitty. No need to worry about that.
Oh, I see. And what would it take for such a provision to be made, Mayor Rose?
Well, nothing more than the city's official approval, Miss Kitty. And that's what I'm trying to explain. Under the new wide-open policy, gambling halls or hospitality establishments such as yours need only pay a small fee to operate openly.
Oh. I'm afraid that we haven't been entirely understanding each other, Mayor Rose.
Well, then, welcome to City Hall, Miss Kitty.
I did continue to meet with Mayor Rose, and we came to understand each other very well. While he held office, anything went. He earned the moniker all the time Rose, and we all realized everything was rosy under Rose. If I made money before he was elected, I made multiples afterwards, and I spent it well. Time for another nip, newspaper man?
Yeah, I'm in for another, as long as the story keeps coming.
I guess we can assume that you never slept with him.
Did you ever have a man, Miss Kitty?
You're a sweet kid, Elma. She's a sweet kid, Emily. My job was my man. Sure, I found certain men attractive, and I kept up my romps with Mr. Henry, but our feelings didn't extend beyond business.
That's depressing, Kitty. Please tell me that my mother was in love.
She was so in love, sweet girl. And so was your dad. There have been a lot of good moments in this life. And good moments should be celebrated. How about a toast, everyone? I've been saving a bottle of Aviv vodka for such an occasion.
Do you mean Aviv vodka for your body, mind, and spirit?
That's the one.
That's so nice of you, Kitty. Really, you shouldn't.
Don't worry, Emily. It's on the newspaper man. Why don't you get that fancy triangular-shaped bottle of Aviv vodka off the top shelf, John?
You got it, old lady.
We drink to the power of good thoughts and good friends.
Good thoughts and good friends.
Ultra smooth with a subtle sweet finish.
So, how about the rest of the story, Miss Kitty?
Well, the good came with its fair share of bad under Mayor Rose, and his tenure in office saw the advent of the stall saloons. These were essentially 3 walls with a lock on the door meant for a man to find a cheap floozy on the streets and drag her in for a moment's pleasure at a bottom dollar. These stall saloons were an unsightly addition to our convention district since the moment they were allowed. We all beseech Rose to get rid of them, but since it would not conform to his wide-open policy, he allowed them to stay.
You're becoming an easy target for the activists, David. They're mostly women whose husbands are known patrons of the houses, so that motivation is fairly apparent, but the platform is that the young girls are getting lured into a life of sin against their will.
I suppose that in moments of drunkenness, these girls may lapse in judgment, find themselves bent over a bale of hay at the tail end of River Street.
Well, if anyone asked my girls if they were lured against their will, they would laugh.
Nevertheless, the upcoming election is worrying me, Kitty. They're all coming after me with torches and pitchforks.
Well, this town would be in the poorhouse without you, David.
They won't understand that until it's too late.
Sound like you're in one of your dark moods. I'll see myself out.
you.
What is it, Elizabeth? What happened?
It's Mr. Henry. Oh, I'm so sorry, Kitty. I'm so sorry. He had a heart attack. It was very sudden.
Well, send for the coachman, then. I'll depart for the hospital at once.
I'm so sorry, Kitty. But it's too late, Kitty. He didn't make it. He passed on the way to the hospital.
He didn't make it?
No, Kitty. He's gone. He's gone.
Oh. Oh, I see. Oh. All right. Well, thank you for giving me the news, Elizabeth. Gather the rest of the girls, then. I intend to throw a party, an extravagant affair where we're going to invite anyone we know of influence and buy votes for Mayor Rose. I'll spend my own money if I have to, but I will not go down without a fight.
On the night of the elections, we shut down the house to await the results. But it wasn't until the following day that the announcement was made. The socialist, Emil Seidel, had won an overwhelming victory. I knew that this could mean many new regulations. It may be a bit uncomfortable for me in the establishment, but I thought he would surely eliminate the stall saloons before he would address the houses. I could not have been more wrong.
Yes? May I help you?
I have a message from City Hall. Seidel has been sworn in. He made it his first order of business to shut you down. You have 48 hours to vacate your borders and halt your operation, or the house will fall to the city through eminent domain.
Oh, Kitty! Oh, no, Kitty! Kitty, come quickly!
What's wrong? What's wrong? I can hear you clear upstairs.
They've come to shut us down. We have 48 hours to leave. All of us, or you will lose the house.
Can they do that? I can't believe there isn't a way around it. The first person I would consult on this would be Mr. Henry, but he's not.
I'm afraid they can do this, Kitty. Everything you do in this house is illegal. Be glad that you own the house free and clear. At least you have assets. The girls will be left homeless and with no employable skills.
I can't let that happen. Gather up the girls again, Elizabeth. I'll spend the next 48 hours trying to make them whole.
So I alerted the girls as to what was happening. Some cursed my name, some hugged me, and some just cried. I scraped together whatever cash I had managed not to spend and gave them all some sort of parting money to go into the world with. Some moved back in with accepting family. Many had men willing to marry them right away. Some had saved enough in their time to be set for life. All of us realized it was the end of something. Something that we would never see the likes of again in this town.
It's the end of an era. That's a right, broad.
Poor Mr. Henry.
Poor Miss Kitty.
There's your story. I hope it was everything you were looking for.
Yes, of course, but I missed the beginning.
I'm tired now. I'm going to bed. Lock up when you're done, will you, Emily?
I wanted to tell her story, I really do, but I missed the beginning. Where did she start?
Now listen real good, newspaper man. You're gonna finish that little nip of beer, and then you're gonna buy me one too. You understand?
What?
The story goes like this. When she came to Milwaukee, before you were even born, this was the town to be.
I'm juggling life. I'm part someone's muse and I'm half someone's wife. Part risk taker, I'm part deal breaker. I don't want you to know who is who. I'm juggling life, and you don't even know my real name. There's 1,000 little boxes with a different story on them. They all lead back to me. Do you want to touch my hair, sniff my dainty underwear, have me tell you you're the only one who makes me come? Well then, baby, I'm your gal. Spread the word to all your pals. pals. Word of mouth's the thing that gets me booked out every night. I'm juggling life. I'm part someone's muse and I'm half someone's wife. Part risk taker, I'm part deal breaker. I don't want you to know who is who. Oh, do you want to steal my heart? Have me touch your manly parts. Something off the menu, then you holler in delight. Well then, baby, I'm your gal. Spread the word to all your pals. Word of mouth's the thing that gets me booked out every night. I'm juggling life. And you don't even know my real name. There's 1,000 little boxes with different story on them. They all lead back to me.
Folks, I'd like to thank you for coming, and we hope you enjoyed our show, Oh, Miss Kitty. Written by Amanda Morton, adapted for radio by Sarah Locke, and produced by Hangman Radio. Starring the 1894 Players Ensemble, Victoria Hudziak, Sarah Locke, Beth Ann, Amanda Morton, Jim Ozarski, Matt Mankiller, Randall T. Anderson. Our sound technician is from Mad Manor Multimedia in Madison. Our Foley technician is Chris Knapp. A special thanks tonight to tonight's sponsor, V Vodka, for providing the spiritual lift. Thank you to Shaker's Cigar Bar. And a very huge thank you to the Shaker's House Band, Sir Pinkerton and the Magnificents. You can catch Sir Pinkerton and the Magnificents on the first Friday of each month at the Miramar Theater and the Dead Man's Carnival. Good night to all.